Lads, how are we? I'm pumped to be back on the YouTube train. Apologies for being a couple of weeks without a YouTube video. Life happens, but we are back on the bandwagon, and that's the crucial component. It's always about if we fall off a little bit, jumping back in. But today I'm super pumped because the plan of action is to share a bit more of an origin story of Brotherhood, of the space, of myself, and I suppose what brought forward this creation and kind of how I got to this moment now. And I feel it's very, very crucial to bring in a bit of structure, but enough wiggle room for there to be flow. So I'm going to break it down into three components, all right? So we're going to break it down into the fall, the forge, and the rise. So the falling of the old self to actualize the truest self, the forging of the character, so the truest version of me, and then now the rise, so building from a truly authentic place. And this is so true, and we'll always jump through different points, kind of like the hero's journey. We return to different points, but maybe right now you're in the fall. All right, in the fall, there's actually a lot of great books. I think it was Robert Bly in a great book called Iron John. If you're into men's work, which you are by watching this video, or at least becoming the best version of yourself, it's a very deep and psychological archetypal story of the wild man. But in that book, they speak about that before a boy can become a man, a true man, he has to fall into ashes. All right, so the fire of transformation will only burn away all of which is not you, so the truest you remains. Right, and the ashes is almost like that dissolution. Like even when a caterpillar is going into its cocoon, it literally has to completely disintegrate just into a gel of cells, and then it rebuilds itself anew. So this is just a reminder. You're likely watching this video for good reason, and you've stumbled upon Brotherhood or in this space. And if you are, or you feel truly that you are in that phase, know it is there for good reason. However, I understand it is extremely painful, all right? Potentially you just went through a breakup. The dream you were going for crumbled. Something tragic happened in your life, and that's usually the case. And it can feel like it's a condemnation from life, but it's not. It's actually life believing in you. And it is through the trials and the tribulations that it forges the motherfucker capable of wielding that Excalibur, that mission. And when we navigate through pain, which we so often do, right, especially if we're living life on mission, or at least searching for that mission, from my understanding anyway, it generally comes from, resolving some sort of pain in our life. And then through resolving that, we find the solution, we become the solution, and therefore we have gifts to give. All right? And then in giving those gifts, it actually becomes the very thing we're here to do. So, on that note, let's talk a little bit about the origin story. I'll very briefly go in my younger years, in the essence of Brotherhood, and why I focus so much on teamwork and that together everyone achieves more. Right? And yes, we all understand it's so crucial to have mates, but as I say with Brotherhood, it's not just any mates, right, or friends, because proximity is power, right? We do become the product of the 5 people we surround ourselves with. So even with Brotherhood, I'm very conscious of who I bring into the space, or we bring into the space, because as I seen with football, right, when you've got a tight-knit gel team where everyone knows their strengths, or at least working to understand their strengths, and then can support one another, those teams are formidable, right? And so often we have these teams in sport with a sense of community, and then as men in life, we're just charging it on our own. But if you were one man facing 11 other men on a football field, you're going to lose every time. I don't care how good you are. Because if you don't have a goalkeeper, you're going to let in goals, right? So that framework really brought in, and that's the saying my dad used to say. And I was very blessed because in my sort of from when I was about 8 till I was about 18, my dad, my old man, was my coach. And We went through that whole journey of being absolutely crap in the beginning, yet I had this incessant drive to continue to practice and just have a ball at my feet the whole time, right? And then as a team, as a unit, we got better and better and better until we won championships many years later. And there were so many foundational tools and lessons in there through, you know, the persistence, the honing of the skills, the discipline, as a team working together and building over time, and the mentorship. And also I understood with men, some men need an arm around the shoulder, whereas some men need kick up the ass, you know, or a bit of a fire up the ass rather than a kick up the ass. Sorry, supportive push, let's say that, a supportive push. And you know, how many men are craving that? You know, I could see how the lads took to my dad, and he was very good, very, very good, and very well respected with us, and you know, spoke to us on a deeper level, to our why. And it was so fundamental to my framework. But as any young lad, my mission was to become a professional footballer. But the more serious soccer or football got, the less I kind of enjoyed it. But in life and academic wise, I always just looked at the system and went like, this is just not me. Like, I hated assignments. I hated the idea of sitting down and not being proactive with things, and learning from people that like look extremely unfulfilled. Now I know there are a lot of teachers out there that are extremely fulfilled, and I had some, but majority of the time, even in university, it was like just wasn't me, right? Wasn't my character. Yet I always felt like I was destined for something greater. And I know you'll resonate with this, because maybe especially nowadays, it's like there can be that calling to that unconventional path. And if you're watching these videos, you've likely felt a calling to that. Yet, however, there can be the pressure from our outside environment, at least from our parents or from friends, just from our proximity of growing up, that, you know, this is the best way to do things. But as I like to say in Brotherhood, it's finding the Bible of you. It's finding what's your way, right? Because no one knows you better than you. And I mean, I don't want to jump the gun here, but one of the most crucial teachings I ever received along my journey was that I'm the person I was looking for the whole time. And my internal guidance system is fucking right. And I trust myself, and I don't want to be anybody else because I'm pretty fucking cool. And I mean that in a place of like deep love. I'm not better than anyone else, but like I don't want to be anyone else other than me. So, and I'm not meant to be, otherwise I would be someone else. So fast forward then, my parents went through a separation, which was very traumatic at the time. That version of me at about 20 years old, it was very sudden. And my mom was going to a Tony Robbins seminar. She's like, I want to change my life. Did you want to come with me? And at that point I was so lost. I had nothing I wanted to do. I was in a relationship at the time. She was studying law. I felt like a bum because I wasn't studying. I was just working. Again, I had no idea what loving myself was. I just felt completely lost. I felt the pressure of, okay, well, what the hell am I going to do? Because she went down that conventional path, and we could say actually took on more of the masculine role in our relationship, because she was very disciplined and I was very floaty at the time. We could call it Peter Pan energy, right? Very boyish in my nature. Because other than football, like, there was no discipline external than that. However, I spoke grand ideals, however, didn't have any sort of tangible action behind it because there was no clarity. And this is the more I've come to understand, is generally if a man's not taking action, it's just down to a lack of clarity. Because once we have that clarity, that single focus, it's like, bang, let's go for it. And then the importance of that support and that proximity and that team around to hold you accountable. So these are all the things I kind of checkpointed and built as we went along the way, because it's what I've needed and continue to need. And I remember stepping into the Tony Robbins seminar, UPW, Sydney, I think it was 2017. It was probably about 2021 at the time. And we've got this massive dude on the stage saying that your beliefs create your reality, change your mind, change your life, utilizing energy, not just sitting there and fucking bored learning. It was like, no, let's get up, move our body, cultivate and embody this. And I remember just thinking, that's it. That's what I want to do. Someone with passion, with fire for life. And Sorry, I literally bumped the wheel there with excitement that it turned the turned the camera off. But that's it, you know. It was that fire, that oomph, you know, not living life on the sidelines, but actually being the man in the arena. And then I went headfirst into, I think I took 10 grand out of a loan, went headfirst into his mastery university. So I ended up going to Fiji to Life and Wealth Mastery. Went to Date with Destiny in Cairns, and it was the single best education I ever received, alongside some more as time went on. But that really put a seed, and I remember going, okay, this is what I want to do. I have no idea what it looks like, but I'd seeded at that point, okay, I would be working with men, right? And as I went along the journey, I realized, you know, as a young man, I was wearing a feminine mask over a masculine core because I felt fearful in life. I didn't have confidence. I didn't have undeniable, stackable proof that I am who I say I am. But yet there was a deep calling there. And at that point, emotionally, as many young lads, there wasn't a proper transition or understanding of what manhood was. I'm very blessed I got that period of time with my dad, but there wasn't necessarily a conversation because his dad also died when he was 20, around what being a man meant, or a proper significant checkpoint where I was like, right, this is who I am, this is what I'm here to do. And I felt the deep lacking of that. And as all these tools started to come through, I went through a relationship breakup as I started to grow and step into myself. But I gained so much validation from that woman, and I used her as a trophy, right? But I hadn't cultivated that level of leadership within myself that I could truly step into who I am. And as happens so often, she left me for another guy quite immediately, and it shattered me. It shattered me, and I remember it was a deeply codependent relationship, and it was a cognitive dissonance. I had no idea who I was without that, and I started having panic attacks. I went into a deep dark spiral, and we could say this was really the moment then where I fell into ashes, right? Where the old self and the old patterns and survival mechanisms and identities had to fall away that I'd cultivated in order to be safe, or to put on a persona to fit in. And I remember literally being on the edge of my bed, on my knees, in so much internal pain and the anxiety and the consistent panic attacks. I remember crying to God, the universe, source, whatever it may be, and just asking him, it, her, to make it stop, to assist in finding a way out. And I felt weak. I felt completely disconnected from who I was, and I felt like a failure, and all these things that all these men will resonate with. And I had no idea what it meant to be a man. I didn't feel like a man. I didn't feel strong in who I was, and I felt completely defeated. And I remember at that point, I didn't want to go and take any of the sort of pharmaceutical medicines. And I was very blessed because I had a mentor come into my life at a point when I needed him most. I used to work in my mom's cafe, and he often says that he asked me, he's like, do you have a book behind the table? And I was like, yeah, it's Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And after having a few conversations with him, he's like, I have a group that I feel you'd really love to be a part of. And it ended up being a plant medicine group, so serving medicines like ayahuasca, mushrooms, psilocybin mushrooms, cactus, San Pedro, all of those incredible medicines. And I decided at the ripe age of 21, I was going to go do an ayahuasca ceremony. I'd done my research. I heard it from Joe Rogan, from guys like Aubrey Marcus. And here I was at 21 going to this ayahuasca ceremony, completely shitting myself, but also with the deep knowing that this is where I was meant to be. And I remember weirdly in the most unusual space feeling so at home, and like this is a crucial component and part of who I am. And let's just say that night I lost my mind. I was asking them, please get me out, get me out, get me out. And they're like, no, It's all good. Just come back to the breath. And as I came back to the breath, I realized it was my mind fucking with me. And I got to deeply acknowledge the pain of the heartbreak at that point. And I pretty much went headfirst into the medicine world because I was in so much internal pain. Like, it didn't rectify it there, you know. I had to feel like I had to completely rebuild myself from the ground up. In social situations, when my body would close and shake, I would start to breathe, and I'd start to understand body language and open my body language up, and I completely kind of rebuilt this character from the ground up. But it came from the purest place, the purest version of me, which is what the medicine assisted, was stripping back and healing all the aspects of childhood. And as I was reading these books, was journeying with these medicines, I started reading all these books on male initiation and rite of passage, and how there is a complete lack of that in today's society. And it just felt like all of this made sense. The integration of the shadow, the, stepping from boy to man, the archetypal journey of the king, the warrior, the magician, the lover, and the joker, but then the immature versions of them. And all of those frameworks started to come through as I was taking myself on that journey. And maybe a year and a half later, I was starting to feel more confident, started a podcast, Brotherhood started to come through, the clarity of that mission. And I did a personal psychotherapy session with MDMA, which completely transformed. I was never able to grow a beard. I was still very much baby-faced, and even whilst doing this work. And then I remember I acknowledged some deeper aspects from my childhood, and literally after that, because the body is the mind, right? Physiologically, months later, I was able to grow a beard. My whole facial structure changed, and it's been the most incredible journey. And then I went headfirst into training, so assisted psychotherapy training with that beautiful community, which I would train for 3 years. Then I went to become the head of facilitator training in that space. So this is then the forge. So as I acknowledged that deeper pain, I started to then forge from the ground up, right? There was the ashes, there was the burning away of the character that I'd built, or the perception of the world, and actually starting to step in and understand, who the fuck am I? And the mission with Brotherhood, what I started to realize, is all these tools. So it was combining the football, the soccer, it was combining the Tony Robbins personal development business world, it was combining this plant medicine world, and bringing all these tools together to forge Brotherhood. The spiritual side, initiation. The teamwork side, the brotherhood, how much it is needed and deeply needed, the camaraderie, the togetherness, the support, right? And then the Tony Robbins world is actually cultivating that mission, stepping into it fully with passion and oomph, right? Knowing we need that support. But at some point, we also need to just grab the fucking sword and say, I am making something of my life, right? And that is true masculine essence, right? From a divine place, you're serving something greater than yourself. And every challenge is the gateway through, right? I say it again and again and again. The boss battle is the way, all right? And it forges the motherfucker, all right? And taking the time to come to understand intimately who you are. What are your character strengths? Where do you need support, right? And then tracking throughout your life, what have been those things you've been passionate about? And they are the thing. Brotherhood is the example of that, all right? So as I went on this journey, in the background there, Brotherhood was building, all right? We started running our first retreat. Then I ran 10 more, all right? And I started from the ground up. I just ran the first one, and then we built. And I think the second one, only 2 people came, but we still ran them. And then the next one, 9 came, all right? And I've tried so many things that have not worked. One-on-one programs, groups, the whole thing, but we just kept going. Right, and I've probably invested close to over $100,000 in myself. I put myself in some stupid situations, even financially, but I put some fire under my bum because I realized staying comfortable here is not going to assist me. And did NLP courses, did coaching courses, business courses, the whole shebang. Some worked, some didn't, but each pillar along the way has cultivated and helped co-create the character that's here, the character that I'm becoming, right? Which is always just even more authentic with who I am, and a more sharpened and forged version of who I am. And a real understanding that healthy masculinity doesn't mean that I have to be fiercely a badass or just an incredibly soft and gentle, compassionate angel, right? I'm both the fucking gorilla and the Buddha. It's the ability to maintain the strength, the assertiveness, the discipline, the honor, the leadership, right? The courage, and combine that with emotional intelligence, compassion, empathy, and love. And that is what healthy masculinity is. And that is what Brotherhood stands for. Because we all need support. And you know what? Actually, the last archetype to fire on in boy psychology is the hero. And what transfers the hero into the warrior? Well, the warrior has all of the same components as the hero. It has the courage, it has the discipline, it has the fire, the passion, right? But the warrior is aware of his own mortality. He's a seasoned operator. He realizes he can't do it on his own. And he doesn't want to, because he can get way further and better results when he has an incredible support network, a battalion, army of soldiers with him, right, who have their strengths that he can lean on and who they can lean on him in their domain. And this, lads, is brotherhood. Because what if all of your challenges are not in vain? Because I know they're not. But my encouragement in the brotherhood space is far too many men are riding it solo. And I've done it, and it is so much fucking better. In this moment now, in the rise, right? In the last pillar there, the rise comes when you lean on the right team and the right support. Things start to move so much quicker. And it doesn't mean it's not easy, but it's a hell of a lot easier because you've got some badass motherfuckers that are holding you to your word and that can hold you when shit hits the fan, whether it's a breakup, whether it's a financial loss, whether it's a family loss, right? These things will come. There's no escaping the challenges. There's no escaping the tragedies of life. But you don't have to do it alone. And then there also will be wins beyond your imaginations, experiences beyond imagination. And it is so much better shared with an actual authentic group of brothers who are there to assist you on living out your mission fully, wielding that Excalibur, but also offering that support, the fun, the laughter, the joy, and men who you would go to war with. So that's on the other side of this journey. So lads, I hope you enjoyed this. I know it was a bit of a longer one. And any questions I'd love to hear below, shoot them through. And if you feel the call, please feel free to reach out. I've got below a link that can send through a application form if you want to apply to work with us in the inner circle, or even just to know more, book a call, have a chat, see if we can assist you. Please feel free to do below. Make sure to like, subscribe, grow this channel, share it with a brother who you feel would really value from this video. And as always, the mission beckons, the mission calls. Let's fucking go.